Good evening. It is 5:21 p.m. on Thursday, March 7th, and 2024. We're here for the work group meeting. All members of the work group are physically present, with the exception of Dr. Moore, who is at a speaking engagement, but will be here shortly. And counsel for the parties are here as well. I don't think well, I know we didn't circulate an agenda, but we have been circulating draft measures and feedback on those measures. And so my suggestion would be that we start with reviewing those areas. And we have time moving on to maybe just a discussion on when we can expect feedback on the extracurricular measures that we recently provided, understanding that I only sent those to you guys yesterday, I think, correct? And then we can discuss our plans on perhaps providing draft measures for the remaining sections within the coming weeks.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is maybe we can get a date on the calendar for the next meeting.
Absolutely.
Before we leave.
You got it.
You want to do that first?
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very good.
Well, let me ask Dr. Shafty this. Well, no, here he is. I wanted to make sure someone could speak to Dr. Moore's calendar, but.
I can't even speak to the calendar. Oh, no, I know.
So you're looking in April or May, are we looking? April, okay.
Jumps out as being as dates having conflicts are April 4th and April 25th.
We're pretty flexible in April, so you guys let us know what works for you. And you.
Dr. Moore and Tony, what do you think?
Can we all look at April 18 and see what that looks like for everyone?
I can't do that day, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, yeah, we
It's a Monday.
Wednesday?
I have a trial that week. It should be done by Wednesday, but I won't be able to get from Pensacola to here in one day.
How about the 11th? Is that
It's
better?
much more likely that will be done by the 11th, and I could get here for that.
Would the following week be better? Do that after the trial?
The 17th.
17th?
We have the district objection committee in here. Is that, oh, that's the 17th, isn't it? Yeah.
16, 18.
Do 16. I could do 18. Oh, that's right.
16th works.
16th? I can't, I cannot be here. Sorry.
The 10th wasn't available?
Yeah, I have a trial that
Oh,
day.
Yeah, that's Matt. But Matt just didn't. Do you want to set it tentatively for the 11th, or do you?
No,
think
the
that-
11th should work for me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Does the 11th work for everyone else?
I can get here. What time, 5 o'clock again?
5 to 7 or 5 to 8?
Set it at 4 p.m.
I would.
or
Looking at our
But-
team too. Marshawn, does that work for you? For the 11th, yeah. At 4? That's okay, that time? Yeah.
That would help.
okay,
All right, 4 to 7?
4 to 7.
So that's Thursday, April 11,
Okay, good.
from 4 to 7 in this room.
So we'll aim to get you back our comments at least 2 weeks before that meeting. And we'll try to get it sooner, but I'll put that in my calendar as the date.
Dr. Shafty, thinking about this timeline, when do you think we might be able to get draft measures regarding the remaining 2 sections? So that there's enough time for perhaps review and feedback.
To the rest of the draft measures by March 20th.
Jody, do you think you guys could get 2 weeks before the 11th is the 28th? Is that enough time to get feedback on those other 2 sections as well, or?
What date, Dr. Shafty, were you going to get them to us? Sorry. I have a new calendar system on my phone, and I'm not very good at operating it yet, so bear with me for a second.
I gave it to all of us. It's horrible.
I think that might be tight, honestly, for us.
I think we could commit to the week before for, like, we could commit to 2 weeks before for extracurriculars and the week before for
Okay.
the 2
The
remaining.
remainder, yeah.
So, okay, perfect, like April 4 then,
Mhm.
that Thursday? Okay.
Mhm.
All right, I think that just leaves, unless you guys are prepared to offer feedback on the extracurricular draft measures, I think that just leaves the feedback that we provided regarding y'all's feedback on the section 2 measures. Was it more than just section 2? Section 2, 3, and 4, that's right. And then maybe we could also, at the end, have a broader discussion about general timeline in this case.
Yeah, that works for us. If you could, Matt, we haven't had an opportunity to share or discuss your response to our measures. So if we could kind of walk through those.
Sure.
You want to?
Yeah, I'm pulling up what I sent them.
So the first one is section 2, indicator 6. There was a question or a comment that the measure is repetitive of indicator 1. So we clarified that indicator 1 is the professional learning specialists who are at the district level, and they have specific roles and responsibilities as it pertains to mentoring. And indicator 6 is a professional learning council representative who is a site-based person that has specific roles and responsibilities. So the measure is reflective both to be an assurance from both levels of support, district and school-based, but we wanted the opportunity to clarify that the PLC representative is school-based. Every school has one.
So you're having a signed assurance letter as the evidence? to measurement?
To mirror indicator 1.
So my concern with a lot of the measurements are that they are not substantive. Like, for instance, a spreadsheet. So the data is what you all put in a spreadsheet and deliver to us. And how do we even measure that it is this actually happening? Because that's basically like you asking me, do I have an education? And I tell you, yeah. I email you back and say, yeah, I have an education, as opposed to like me providing you the transcript to show you that my level of education and that I've completed certain requirements.
So we only addressed the questions that there were comments or an addition to as far as feedback.
Sorry, I'm willing to. I mean, just in the interest of.
The spreadsheet was provided as a draft measure for many of the indicators. So do we go one by one? I'm not sure where the.
I think we're just, we want to make sure we have the understanding that like the spreadsheet is where everything will be measured. We agree to that, but we are also expecting the underlying source data in support of the spreadsheet.
So you're suggesting now that we add that to the measure for indicator 1?
No. I mean, I think it's just like, it's measured in the spreadsheet, but just so we all understand that.
I think it needs to be documented that supporting materials be provided, because we had that issue before where the equity committee was getting charts and graphs and reports, but we didn't get the raw data. And then once we got the raw data and we cross-referenced what was in the report to the raw data, we saw like there was some inconsistencies, or there were, like for instance, representation, there were some teachers that transferred to another school, but they were also listed on the previous school's report. So really just having access to the actual data itself as opposed to aggregate data.
Is that okay? Is there any issue with that?
There's no issue. I just think we prepped for the comments that we received. So we just assumed that if there was no comment or need for clarification, I don't see that being an issue.
So is that something that we can easily write in? Let's see.
So that was my question. So we are adding something to the measure for indicator 1 now.
I don't know if it's even adding it to the, like, I think it's just making sure that, like,
Clarifying, yeah.
it will be for all measures, for all indicators, just that we, that in the event there's any summary spreadsheets provided, or that we get access to the underlying source data for the summary spreadsheets. I don't think that, like, the data, it's in and of itself is a measurement.
Right.
I think your evaluation of the data would be the,
Exactly, like the spreadsheet is the measurement, which is why we didn't have many comments to the actual spreadsheet, but we were just thinking through and want to make sure at the outset we're all on the same page, that we'll get access to the underlying source data for any summary spreadsheets.
So what would be example in this indicator, in this data, the underlying source? I mean, what would be?
I think it would-
In my mind, I think I know where we're going.
It would be the signed agreements. Like you're documenting it in a spreadsheet, and we also see copies of
so we
those
would,
signed
like,
agreements.
indicator one, we would give you the letter. That's the
Exactly.
artifact.
Right,
That's how we understood it too.
yeah.
So formal mentor program organized, operated, and monitored by the school district professional learning specialists. So here, we're not looking to see the mentoring program, we're just looking for the letter. So indicator one is only focused on the professional learning specialist, or are we also including the formal mentor program in that indicator? So we need to see a formal program, and we also need to see who's monitoring or operating and monitoring that program. Like, in my mind, it's twofold. And I'm sorry, guys, I wasn't a part of their meeting, really, so here I am now with my extra, just to clarify.
So I guess in a different instance, let's just say like with recruitment, you might give us a spreadsheet that said we went to 3 HBCUs, or you went to Bethune and FAMU and signed 10 offer letters, and that would be on the spreadsheet. But in addition to that, the proof of it would be the offer letters.
Like,
is
the
what you're
proof would be
saying.
the offer letters, the calendar to show, like, okay, this is our schedule for
Yeah.
the recruitment visits, I mean, even if they wanted to say,
That's in
okay, so
there.
we also have expenses.
That's in there, but I think for indicator one, what we would need to add is the program material, right? So, and I think this is already something that you have and create, so that
Yeah.
we would just need to
See the mentoring plan.
a measurement that
Yeah.
says, and I don't know if that's a proper measurement, but you know what I mean? We would want to see what we're gauging it on. What does the mentor program look like? What is your policy? And then be able to look at the assurance letter from that. So it would be twofold on that one.
Well, if you have organized, operated, and monitored, how do you measure operated and monitored? Is that both by the assurance letter? Is that by looking at number 2 and seeing who's assigned to it? Possibly, right, because it's tracking enrollment, so we know that it's now being operated. I'm just asking questions.
No, it really, it's just, I think if you read every measure and each piece of information that would be supplied, our thought was you would have enough to evaluate the mentoring program, but if there's something you want added, I think we'd have to look at the specific example of what you would want added.
Well, I just think, like, it's not really, I think, for me, I would see that a measurement could be more than, like, each indicator could have more than one measurement. But then I see you all just have one measurement.
To me, in its simplest form would be our ability to validate.
I think the question is, when you look at section 2, the school district will provide, I'm sorry. Just pick my daughter up at the airport, and if her flight doesn't leave on time, I'll have all kinds of extra time. That wasn't her. We've created 6 indicators and then measures to evaluate if the school district provides a formal mentoring program during 1 through 3 that is structured to support the assistance and the individual needs of African-American teachers and instructional staff so they can integrate and succeed in their roles. So that's a pretty low, we're trying to evaluate that statement with 6 indicators and 6 measures. So I'm sorry,
There's two more on the next page.
I'm sorry, 8
No, no,
indicators. So the question is, so we can begin to evaluate, is those 8 indicators and 8 measures comprehensive to evaluate that section of the joint plan in totality? Because I think we can have conversations with each independent indicator for hours on end and add additional, which I think is, we could, but in totality, when you look at the complete array of information, does that capture? And it could be more. I mean, we could present these indicators and bring anybody you want me to bring to say, okay, ask them questions, because at the end of the day, these things happen to people. So there's opportunities for y'all to engage in conversation with those individuals as well. So I'm just wondering, how much more do we have to add when you look at it in the totality of what we're evaluating in 2-3 sentences? Is all 8 indicators and the measures enough information to make an evaluation of that section, while at the same time understanding the limited resources that we have, or the additional burden that this will create in producing more things? So that's the question I would say. Do these 8 indicators provide enough information to say, yes, we're providing these programs in 1 year through 3?
When I look at the indicators, I look at a flow, and, just starting with indicator 1, the assurance letter, then indicator 2, quarterly newly assigned teacher and instructional staff members, reports on the mentoring program. Skip down to the spreadsheet tracking the mentee. Then you look at indicator 7, put it on our public available website. And then the indicator at the end, which was what the data when we talked about, shall not be less than 80% of the renewal rate of their white counterpoints. I think it makes sense when you look at the flow. And each one, obviously, we could bring in mentors, mentees to see where they are and how it looks for them. But I think the flow is pretty good there.
And the section of the 2018 joint plan is also a helpful guiding star in as much as it says the school district will continue its plan and practice. The current new teacher mentoring program is discussed during the new year. All teachers who are in years 1 through 3 of their teaching career are automatically enrolled. Section 2, as it's written in the 2018 joint plan, simply contemplates continuation of what was going on at that time. And I think these indicators go above and beyond establishing compliance with the section itself.
But the problem is, when we were presented with the evidence at that time, we had to ask for more and more. For example, the list of teachers who were all given offer letters, or the information that came that was for each teacher that was recruited. At some point, I got redacted information. At some point, there was redundant information of the same email and stuff. So when we're looking at it now, I think it's better to get it on the front end so that we know what to ask rather than get to that juncture and then.
And we had previously discussed that spreadsheets and sign-in sheets was not enough. It's not. I mean, I can forge 20 people's signature and say they all attended in a sign-in. But just to pivot, the section 2 on indicator 3 says a voluntary basis, that the mentor program, that all mentors participate. Okay, so this is mentors on a voluntary basis. Yeah, because I was going to say here it says that automatically, but that's for mentees.
Right.
Okay.
So I think it's important to move the conversation forward, and some of the systems in place, or the lack of systems, and some of the back and forth of information provided is exactly why we're doing indicators and measures. That's the year-and-a-half process that we've engaged in, not to have those conversations anymore. So we've already defined the indicators and are norming on what the measures are. It eliminates that need. So I would appreciate moving forward in terms of what these things would be, so we can get to where we're actually evaluating the work. I mean, we've created these things to eliminate that frustration.
Right, so that's why we have to be specific about what the measurement is, not just a spreadsheet, actually raw data supporting that spreadsheet, so that we're not saying, how do we, like, question the integrity of the data, because the data has not been well in the past.
I
So-
think what you're saying makes total sense.
Yeah.
I just think we weren't prepared that we didn't receive feedback on those, so
But
it would
the-
be helpful in the exchange when we commit to exchanging, so that we both prep.
So I have to push back on that, because if that was the case, then we're not really being transparent with the public if they don't see the actual discussion and we're doing the deal and the conversations behind the scene. I get coming in here and having an idea of what is being discussed, but if we have resolved all the issues prior to coming into this meeting, then we are doing a disservice to the people in our community who are actually vested in this desegregation order. Because then they're like talking how they talk about the school board. Well, everything is decided before they even get there. We don't even know what's going on. But if we're actually having these conversations here, then we allow them to understand the thought process on everyone around the table. So it is important.
And I can give you an example, just to kind of move it forward. So I think what we were trying to do in the indicators that you all commented on yesterday and said were outside the scope of Section 2, is we were trying to speak to the goal of having a mentor program that supports and assists the individual needs of the African-American teacher, right? So how do we track, how do we measure that the mentor program is speaking to the African-American teachers, each individual's needs? How do we were trying to come up with something, rejected, I get that. Can we talk about what measures there might be to speak to that part of the Section 2?
Which indicator are you referring to?
So we thought it would fall within indicator 8 or, was it? Yeah, it was indicator 4. And to that end, I think the survey is a good start, but one of the points that we discussed was there's sometimes a fear of being honest in the surveys, and is it really going to track how well the program is meeting that individual's needs? So what are your ideas on what would be included on the survey? Are you going to share that with us? Is it a survey that you already have? Those specific types of questions about the survey to make sure the survey is actually going to satisfy the intent behind this Section 2 and the KPIs. So I guess my first question is, do you already have a survey?
Yes.
You do? Okay. Is that public facing? Can we see?
No, because it's very specific.
To each teacher?
To each teacher fills it out. So every quarter, the mentee, which would be your new teacher, fills out a needs assessment. So there's the layers of support are your school-based mentee has a mentor, then they have an administrator, then they have a district specialist. We have 2 district specialists who split all schools. The survey, to be honest, we don't get 100% response rate on the survey, because a teacher who graduates from a college of education, we have nothing that can hold them to say, as a condition of employment, you have to have a mentor. Where we can hold the teacher accountable to having a mentor is if they come in on a temporary certificate and the state issues a statement that says, you must be signed off that you've demonstrated professional educator competence PEC. we can absolutely hold them accountable to say, if you want the school district of Indian River County to sign you off that you're competent, you must abide by the system in place to support you.
Well, the joint plan holds them to having a mentor. All teachers who are in years 1 through 3 of their teaching career in Indian River are automatically enrolled into the program, so they're required.
Yes, so part of the program includes a mentor. Part of the program includes school-based professional learning on a monthly basis by what we call a Team SDIRC administrator. So the survey is quarterly. There are questions aligned to the academic pieces. We have our own language. We have high-yield strategies. Each school works on a high-yield strategy. How are you doing with differentiation? It's very specific. And then what are your needs? Do you feel like, what is your level of satisfaction with your mentor? There are set questions.
Is that survey that you're talking about geared towards the mentor program specifically, or is that a broader survey that covers?
The only people that fill it out would be a new or novice employee. It is geared specifically for them to figure out is the system of support currently in place working for you, or do we need to amend or adjust and be responsive to it? So the mentee fills out the survey. If they don't fill it out, we ask the mentor to have a conversation. If that doesn't happen, then our district staff goes out and has a conversation with them.
Do you track the level of responsiveness to these surveys? Do you track, that process that you just discussed, like how many attempts to get them to fill out the survey?
Not in a quantitative way, but that would be emails. I don't know what else we would provide for that. That's multiple, hey, I noticed you didn't complete your survey today. Don't forget to do it. Do you need help with it? But that would be very much qualitative pieces that.
Is that like an opt-in, opt-out timeline? Like, in other words, so you get the new teachers, they're automatically enrolled. I understand that. If they're showing no interest in the mentor program, is there an opt-out option, or do they just not respond and then at some point the mentor gives up? Is there?
I don't think the mentor ever gives up, but there are layers of the new teacher where you have someone who's on the temp certificate. The way we hold them accountable really is if they go through our alt-cert program. And when they go through our program, there are checks in place along the way for milestones to make sure things are happening. But the teachers that really we cannot, it's at no part a condition of employment, then they're not getting additional money, the mentor does not get compensated, would be the teacher who graduated with a degree in education. To have a mentor.
Average, what are we doing, 80, 100 teachers, new teachers a year?
Oh, I don't know.
It varies,
Depends on the
80 and 125, I'd say.
Oh, okay, so what percentage of those would be not teacher trained?
It increases every year, but I'd have to look in.
95% of them?
95%,
Yeah.
okay. So then,
Can you tell me what that means, not teacher trained? Sorry for
you didn't go to a teacher, oh, go ahead.
those that
Wasn't
don't.
an education major.
That 95% of them didn't graduate with a degree in, from a as a teacher. Now of the 125, they may come from a different county, they're fully certified, they're not a new teacher. So you have to take that number with a grain of salt. The new teacher program would be someone who is a new teacher who's 9 times out of 10 is coming into a teaching position with just a bachelor's degree in something.
In 1970, 33% of all graduates in America were in education. Now it's less than 9%.
33, you said?
33% in 1970, now it's less than 9%. You can look at all of these indicators, but the success of the mentoring program comes down to one major thing, making sure you partner that new teacher with the right mentor. And that's where you will see success. And you see it more at the school-based level. You really do. As a principal, you could see, okay, this is working, this isn't working. Maybe I need to make a change. And then obviously the district is there for support. But
Can I ask you
Yes.
a question, Dr. Jones? So if such a small percentage of these teachers have a background in education, is the mentoring program a key to their success, or are there other
There's
resources that are set up to
multiple
train them?
contributing
Yeah, multiple,
factors
yeah,
that would
yeah.
that would lead to a teacher's success.
Like our alternative certification, like for Automotive Academy, they didn't come out of education, they didn't have the degree, but they were certified to teach automotive and the career tech and so forth. And please understand, some of those teachers come in alternative, they are fabulous, you know what I mean? But the mentoring program is one of the things we do for support, but I mean, when I just remember at the school-based level, and I think principals would still say this, having the right mentor with the right mentee. And then you can feel if it's working, and you might have to make a switch, but that's the key to getting to the data of what we need for the 80%.
But it's like, if a teacher doesn't have a background, right, and they didn't have the opportunity to sit in on classes and learn all of this while they were going through college, where are they learning how to do lesson plans and do, all of those things?
So there's systems in place that are above and beyond a mentor. So each school has instructional coaches who do just that. They work through common planning. They help them create the lessons, help them disaggregate the data. They will model a lesson for them, so they will teach that class themselves as the teacher just observes the lesson. Then they'll teach it together. Then the coach will observe and kind of release the responsibilities and provide feedback. Each elementary has those positions in their school, and we rotate. Each middle and high school has instructional coaches who rotate school based on need. And that could be a veteran teacher, it could be a new teacher. It's based on the level of support someone needs.
Is it, I understand it's a resource to the teachers. Is it something that they request, or is it something that's automatic? It's the coach makes their rounds to the teachers.
So through common planning, everyone goes, there's the opportunities for the teacher to request, and there's opportunities for the instructional coach to say, hey, let me have conversations with you, to say, let me come in and help you. And there are opportunities in which it's prescriptive based on what an administrator sees in a classroom that's not sufficient. So there's multiple pathways to be provided that support, whether it's prescriptive or whether it's voluntary through the coaching cycle.
Okay.
My concern is, as it relates to African-American teachers mentoring, as I listen, there's so many punitive aspects to this.
What do you mean by
Because based on who the mentor is, they can define, if we don't have just only the spreadsheet and we can't validate any other aspect of it, the human element is allowed to run wild. And if I don't like Dr. Shafty and I'm her mentor, I can destroy her career by how I analyze or work with her, and I can document it on a spreadsheet to be one thing, and it's not necessarily that. My thing is, I like to say the spreadsheet is good, but show me that I did all things right by Dr. Shafty, that I used all necessary things, because in previous times, Kevin and I have seen where it was used to be punitive. So that's my concern. Just the spreadsheet, that's data thrown at you, but validate it for me. Let me see that you crossed all the T's and dotted all the I's.
Well, that it's effective too, because that's the biggest thing. Like when I see spreadsheets and sign-in sheets and assurance letters, I think this is just the start. Where's the proof for implementation, right? Because we've been starting for since 2018 when this came out. When are we going to look at implementation data and say, okay, this is operating and it is effective? Because that's what unitary status is unitary status is not, oh, we've met this mark and done the bare minimum. Unitary status is, hey, you can leave this district alone because they're functioning and this can be maintained. And that's where, as a community member, we want to be, so that we can advocate for the school district and say, this is happening in the school district, this is happening in the schools. So your complaint is really a one-off, and we can assist you with that, but we know that the district is effective in this area.
So in 2018, we agreed we not being, to continue the mentoring program, and you look at these indicators, and there's not a person that could say that we are superseding because the two sides agreed, we are superseding the requirement of what's in the joint plan to validate that A, the mentoring program is taking place, B, that it's effective, C, that we will shift and modify to meet the needs of the mentee. That's why I say, can you call them to testify? What can we do to get to the point where evaluating the work? Because the mentoring program is the lowest hanging fruit that we have.
And that's
That's the lowest hanging fruit that we have. It's right. So I'm not sure what I have to agree to say, what do we have to do to assess the mentoring program when the agreed upon standard was on the floor in the indicators and what we're trying to agree
From my
upon?
understanding, when they agreed, wasn't it discussed that the equity committee that was the bare bones, right? And the
Right.
equity committee would put the meat on the bones.
Yes.
Which we're now putting the
Yeah, but
meat on the bones.
The equity committee doesn't run the school system, and the joint plan clearly says that. The school board does. So when you're adding or shifting or changing the requirements, you're driving the work. This committee should not supersede the school board.
But there's no changing of the requirements. This is.
No, if you look at the requirements and these indicators, and you can hire anybody, you can ask anybody, do these indicators, are they evaluating the simple statement where you continue? And they're gonna say, oh my gosh, not only does it, it's providing significantly more. That's
But
not
you
even-
minimized it to just continuing. That's why you minimized that paragraph
What I'm
too.
saying is,
Yeah.
that's what was agreed upon 8 years ago. And
Will continue its plan and practice of welcoming and providing a supportive professional environment. It
You're
is,
not minimizing, no one can read this and say the school district is minimizing anything.
we
That's not
are
accurate.
evaluating providing a supportive professional environment. This is what the indicators are doing. They're here to examine, is the environment welcoming and providing a supportive professional environment? So it's more than just continuing.
So what would you want to see to assess
So-
that?
Other than short of bringing each and every single person in and asking them the question, which I'm willing to do, I'll pay for the substitutes. Because it's so straightforward. The program A is in place and B is everything that Mershawn just said. So let's not talk about it for another year. Let's bring in all 40, so how many people are in it? Ask them away. Let's visit the classrooms. Tell me what I have to do to implement the evaluation of this mentoring program.
We have the
No,
data.
you know.
Don't we have the data on, I know,
The data.
as far as our African-American teachers being retained and
Yeah,
going to
that
next year?
that is, to me, like
And
that's
next
the
one.
last one, I think.
Well, that's
Well,
why.
I know,
we
but
said-
we have
we
the
s-
data, yeah.
But
We
understanding
agreed-
that
we
that's the
agreed-
net result of the mentor program.
Right.
I understand your point. Would it be helpful to the work group to look at the survey and to see what the spreadsheet looks like that includes the survey results? Because I think it may provide some comfort to the work group to actually see what the survey looks like and to make sure that it's accurately.
Yeah, but that would require, and I agree, but it is such a better conversation of saying, okay, you've provided the information to these metrics, and here is our direct feedback associated with the information provided versus the historical, which it is what it is. I can't, that's what it was. I can't debate that. It's a better conversation to say, this is the information provided. In order to meet these indicators, we feel we need this something specific, because we're talking with a bad track record around information that's yet to be provided. It just becomes
But I think
more
that's why it has to be, we have to be a little bit flexible when we're talking about memorializing the measures because we are coming from an information deficit in not knowing exactly what these surveys, for example, look like. And so I think it's, you know, it's great that there's a spreadsheet that we'll be able to evaluate, but agreeing to that blindly without knowing that the underlying survey gets at what information we think is important.
It's in terms of flexibility, I think if you look at the two-sentence summary and these indicators, flexibility and superseding the requirement.
But we have them now. We have them. We're here.
Right.
And so we want to move the ball forward. I think everybody wants to do that. And so if we have, and it's not great to just keep, you know, going back and forth. Like, we're trying to move forward. And so I think a great solution would be pull up the survey. You know, let's take a look at it and see, is the survey fantastic? Great. It hits all it's binary, hits all of the points that we want to make sure that this teacher is getting the individual need according to the section 2 that he or she is supposed to get. The Excel spreadsheet is going to reflect that, and everybody is, check it off, let's move forward.
And I also don't feel like just because we discuss the negatives that we've experienced, that it should be discounted and seen as being stuck in the past. Because it is important to say, these are the obstacles we faced, this is where it went wrong, and it needs to be public so that people are aware. Our attorneys weren't a part of that. They didn't know that that was our experience. So yes, we're going to talk about it today.
But it's not worth going back and forth. So that was some of the information you struggled with. My struggles were okay, but here is this, and this is the information that we did provide. That doesn't pertain to that. To me, that's not the fruitful conversation. Because what was provided, now I'm not talking about before I got here, but what was provided, there's a 60-page report that we said that says that this is the rationale for, that isn't the past. That's why we're doing this, so we can effectively say, okay, and it becomes, when you say, well, this indicator, whatever we provided, that's not what we agreed upon. What can I say? Okay, well, then it's a yes or a no. That's why we spent so much time to do this. So I think the indicators are very, very specific. I think the measures should be just 100%, which should be relatively straightforward to provide because they're 100% aligned to the indicator.
The indicators, I believe, are looking good, but we just want some clarification. Now, let me say this point and then ask a question. We agreed that there was a mentoring program, but then last year, out of your, what do you call those ESE teachers that were at every school? You had 4 blacks, and they were all veteran teachers. 75% of your black teachers in that group of 20 were the mentors had gotten rid of them. They were ESE certified. They're
veteran teachers,
so
not years 1 to 3.
Exactly. But if we had a mentoring program, why did the mentoring program not work with them? If it's not going to work with the veteran teachers, how are we to?
That's not what we're assessing. So in those specific instances, there's
so here's the
in
question.
Enrollment. There's other things that this is not part of that. That's not part of this conversation.
Okay.
That's not.
I think
Well, here's the question on the survey.
I'm leaving you in the capable hands of Adrian. I'm sorry. I have a flight.
Oh, really?
Yes, but Adrian's going to take over.
Could you pick up my daughter if you're going to her?
I am going the opposite direction.
Oh.
I think we agree that, I think we really do agree in substance here, which is that we agree that a quarterly survey is important, and we want the results of the survey to be, we want to see the survey, and we want the survey to be, the results of it to be reflected in a spreadsheet, and we're all comfortable with that, but before we agree to this as the measure, we just want to be able to see the survey. And I think it probably captures exactly what we think it should capture. But like Jody said, we're dealing with an information deficit, so we just don't know.
I'll read you the questions. Full name, location, grade level, which monitoring and formative assessment is your instructional strength, which one monitoring and formative assessment is an opportunity for growth, which standards-based instruction and task element is your strength, same growth. The pairing with my mentor is effective, it's a Likert scale. Is there any additional information you would like to share with us at this time? What do you need to feel successful?
To me, that's somewhat ambiguous. I'll just use an example. Dr. Moore is on contract, and there's a rubric by which the board will assess his success. If he doesn't know what that is, how can he live up to it? Problematic, very much so, because Kevin alluded to, and Dr. Moore, those teachers were put in a new career field. They may have been veteran teachers, but they were put into a new field, which, to me, if we're doing this mentoring right, if I've never had this responsibility, then I should fall under that mentoring program. It should be fluid. It should be something rather than looking back to the 2018 joint plan, which Mashawn mentioned earlier. Before you came, it was bare bones. We, as a group, school district, NAACP, and the attorneys were supposed to enhance it, not just go on and say, I'm going to check the box, we're living up to it. According to the 2018 plan, we're doing more than we're supposed to be doing. It is 2024, and our children are failing tremendously. And it's incumbent upon us to put all of that in the trash and work from a foundation of we are going to do what's best by children. So if that 2018 plan is flawed, and we have the opportunity to enhance it, to make it better, so that 20 years from now, 10 years from now, it can be said, we did our due diligence in making Indian River County School District a better district. That's how I see it.
And
Well, I mean, then an 8-page document is not going to be exhaustive of everything, so I don't know.
You bet. So, let me just respond. Bare bones in 2018, these indicators is a whole bunch of meat that's been put on that bone. These indicators supersede the bare bones that were there.
I don't think
That-
so, but go ahead.
Well, that's what these people agreed upon, everyone here agreed upon on them.
I mean, we agreed upon that, but I don't
Yeah.
think it
I mean,
supersedes.
Oh goodness, yeah, well, we don't agree on that one. And then when you look at the progress, you got to go with the numbers. The data speaks volumes for where the system is and the growth in the progress of students. That is the biggest indicator. I mean, our students academically in a better place today than the black, white, green, purple, yes. Are more of them graduating? Yes. So, I mean, there's,
But can they read?
yes, otherwise they wouldn't receive a diploma. I mean, they have to pass an assessment, you know, but once again, I mean, the data says that. You can't get a diploma unless you can pass one of 3 different assessments. There's no way around it. There's no way around it.
There actually is, but go ahead.
So, I mean, I think drilling down on this, though, we actually kind of are still, like, you know, all of that aside, kind of on the same page for what we need for the measure for indicator 4. It's just what we had discussed, again, not knowing exactly what the survey said, was that maybe the survey could be, like, even though the qualitative responses could be scaled, so we could have more of an accurate measure.
How so?
When you say, like, I mean, again, you just read this, so I'm going off memory, but the last couple questions that are open-ended, if those could be scaled somehow.
So the pairing with my mentor is on a Likert scale.
Yes,
That is already on a scale. Then they have an
Okay.
open text box.
which is
which is what do you need to be successful? So
Okay.
a lot of these tied to the academics
Mhm.
are drop downs because we need to be able to filter for
Right.
problem solving. But there is an open text box that if there's something else and they have the Likert scale also has, I wish to discuss this further with district staff.
Okay.
So what was the mentor question again?
All of these are mentor questions.
No, I mean the scaled mentor question, where you asked about their mentee.
You asked the
About the
mentee,
mentor.
you asked the mentee
About
about
the
the
mentor.
mentor
Yeah, but what was the
The
words?
pairing with my mentor is effective.
on a scale of 1 to 5.
Satisfied, highly dissatisfied, highly satisfied, satisfied. I wish to discuss this further with district staff.
Does that answer indicator 4, personalized mentoring plan, identifying obstacles, concerns, and adverse conditions? Because I'm thinking, that's why I asked the question, what percentage of the teachers are new? If you got 80 teachers and 50% of them are not education trained, then they might come in and say, okay, they've never had classroom management. They might need classroom management. They might need lesson plan making. They might need de-escalation. They might need cultural competencies or something like that. So are there, when I'm thinking of the survey, it has the box that says maybe I would like more information on this, some of the things that I mentioned, and then some following questions that would say, okay, are you, after a while, are you competent? Do you need more in this, that, and the other? I mean, most teachers probably can't make it because of classroom management. And then it might be, okay, and pretty much everybody has an ESE child in the class. Are they, competent with making the IEP goals for whatever? So that survey, the questions that you read were kind of very, very high functioning questions, and you even have to think about the words.
But they're not because they're built into our system. These words are in a walkthrough tool that district staff, school-based staff, instructional coaches, through a non-evaluative lens, we use this language all the time.
And that's what the teachers answer.
This is what the new teacher answers with.
The new
So
mentor
this
answers
is
that.
our common language, how we say learning environment, and there's a drop down. So while it may seem complex or maybe unfamiliar here, you walk on any campus, this is the language we speak for what the learning environment, what teaching and learning should look and sound like. And then what this survey will never capture is we have 2 people that support every new teacher in this district, and you can ask them, you can tell them first name, last name, and they can tell you everything about them. They directly support new teachers on a day-to-day. They circle back around in classroom walks, non-evaluative, to assess, did what you put in this survey actually match? They support them in collaborative planning with the instructional coach. They sit by them. So there's so many pieces. And I know it sounds defensive, but when you live a day-to-day with the people that are supporting these new teachers, it is incredibly difficult to tell them that what they're doing is not successful. Because we hear, there's probably one of them upstairs right now taking a phone call with one of those teachers to help them do test prep and study prep.
Who's telling them they're not successful? Is that what you're saying that we're saying?
I think
By asking questions that is not successful?
I think-
We're saying we want to understand what the survey says in order for us to be able to make the judgment together that it's made success.
But the survey doesn't paint the entire picture. And I think where we have a missed opportunity here is to have the people doing the work, for you to have that conversation with the people directly doing the work.
So I appreciate conversations. I have learned that they are time-consuming, and also, like, if we just want to get the feedback, right, just the abstract. Like, I think, to build on what Kevin was saying, one of the questions could be, have you received a personalized mentoring plan that identifies the obstacles, concern,
They're creating their plan, though. So every teacher.
But how do we know that? Which is why.
Those are the results that I think the frustration is to be able to just show you what it is. We didn't know that. I think I don't understand the point of exchanging drafts in advance, because we could have given you the screenshot. Hey, we would love to see what the survey looks like. Done. Download.
Again,
send it.
so that we're not here until 10, so that we're here until 7. And it's to have, okay, so we were in a common area, to have something to build upon coming in here. But also, like I said, we do want to be transparent and have the discussion so that the community can see. But to talk about the effectiveness of mentoring, we had two black teachers 2 years ago, black males, get arrested, right? It reflected horribly on the school district. And I could say that a mentor pairing, like, yes, they do instructional stuff, but they also tell you ways around the community, right? Like, if they had been effectively paired, there would have been some different things that happened in that situation. And I say that.
But that's mentoring an adult. The intention of this is to help them transition into being an effective educator, not where they're spending their 3 a.m.
It's all encompassing. You can't tell me when you can't.
It's all a part of it, Doc.
But you can't tell me when you come to a new city that your coworkers don't talk to you about places that you can dine, the culture of the community.
I'm sure they had those
Right.
conversations. They did not heed those warnings. But I don't know that that's a specific example to the mentoring program. Are there other potential advice and support that they should have got? Yes. At the end of the day, did they put themselves in an incredibly awful situation that they made decisions way outside the way of work? Those are the decisions they made. That's not evaluating a mentoring program.
Kevin said something cultural, and nobody caught it. Within that rubric, cultural competence. Think about that. You bringing a kid who grew up in rural Kansas, African American, into Indian River County, into Palm Beach County, with all the nuances associated with that environment. Is he culturally competent to survive in that environment? And if there's not a mentor, Dr. Moore, we're looking at it holistically.
No, I understand how you're looking at it.
And it's incumbent, if I'm going to bring you, I look at Michael Smith, went to University of Pittsburgh, straight out of Gifford, Florida, to the University of Pittsburgh. Tell me that wasn't future shock.
That's cold, too.
But if you got a young teacher, as Mashawn was saying, coming into an environment, it becomes that maybe this survey should take part a little deeper as to understanding that those 3 young men came from the muck, what we call the muck. They don't have no social life. If you ever been there and hung out,
Yep.
it's as if you stepped into 1928. They didn't understand a lot, but if the school district is trying to do what's best, part of their mentoring program would say, okay, wait a minute, we missed a tremendous opportunity to enhance that document of the 2018 that everybody rings to. It wasn't in there, but my Lord, Indian River School District dodged a bullet, because that young man, one of them, is still sitting in Indian River County Jail. His life is destroyed because he didn't know where he was. And then cultural competence. Just because they are black don't mean they understand the black experience. So this is why we were asking, what does it look like? How does it fit? Can we see it? Can we analyze it? And maybe if you let us, we can help you make it even better.
But when you say that it enhances, there's words in this joint plan that welcoming, what does welcoming look like? It's up to us to lay that out, right? If we're the ones who are doing the work and evaluating the work, then that's where this happens. And so, when you say certain stuff, Dr. Moore, the past few years, you all have saw that, okay, this is what this compliance looks like. And then the committee has said, no, we don't think that's compliance, which is why we're here, right? And so these indicators is looking at this document and saying, let's discuss what compliance looks like and let's agree on it. I'm not here to give a hard time, but what I don't want is for when we're no longer here, people come in and have no clue on what these indicators or these measures we're trying to assess. So,
I don't disagree.
so like, I feel like let's break it down.
I want to add one thing.
So just, I don't agree, I agree, these indicators and whatever will be, I'm not used to this language, sorry, and I'm blind as a bat. These indicators and measures do add a level of specificity to
They do.
the joint
They do.
plan. And it does become the dialogue we're having, that we ultimately, the district is saying, we agree that's an appropriate measure and indicator. Then we provide that information. And if it falls short, then it's a recommendation in terms of that's what it is. The ultimate authority, whether it shifts, ultimate relies within me and then the board itself. So we're creating these, as you said, to say, all right, let's have a level of specificity to evaluate the joint plan, which is the group. And where we fall short, these, or the evaluation says these are the recommendations, those would be the recommendations.
But you know we're gonna tussle here, right? Because
No, and
because,
I don't.
Well, let me tell you, because if we don't get it right here now, we're gonna catch hell trying.
No, I don't mind the tussle. I just get frustrated
And then
when
if
we
you're
go back
going-
to the unfortunate situation we were in because of the lack of specificity to do this. That's I don't mind. I enjoy the tussle.
I just want to add one thing.
I don't know. Well, sometimes I don't enjoy it, but I appreciate the tussle.
Okay, I want to go back to what I said at the very
Yeah, I said
beginning
tussle
about
before.
mentoring. What'd you say?
I don't think I've ever used the word tussle.
All of us want the same thing.
Right.
We want every teacher to be successful, because once you get them, you want to keep them, because there are not a lot of them coming to us. And that's in the best interest for our kids. We want great teachers for our kids, so our kids can be successful, graduate, and move on. And I go back to that one thing, you might not have the right mentor with the mentee, but I also think, and we talked about this a little bit, or maybe I just talked with you, Mr. Brown, helping with the community mentor, like you said with those boys. And that broke our hearts. And I think about that because cultural competence, and what are they coming into? Does it look like where they came from? That kind of thing. We have a lot of boys that go off to school and it's a whole different world, and it's hard. It's hard. So I think we need to look at not only the mentoring, but then maybe taking it the next step, either through NAACP or our sororities and fraternities, looking at men that also could be helpful to them because it's a balance, art and science. You better know your content, but the art is the relationships and how you blend those. So
are you proposing another indicator for
Ooh.
community?
I want to have Mr. Seymour be in charge. I'm telling you, I
Which
know
is
all the
actually
sororities
in
and
there, isn't it?
fraternities. They would
It's
be
one of
wonderful.
those things.
And our churches in Gifford are wonderful.
I want to ask one question.
Yep.
We've tussled, as Mashawn and
It's all
Doc
right.
said, over something so minute. In the overall success of this district and what we are doing is as she so eloquently put it, defining a survey. And if it's,
I'm glad you see it that way too.
hold on, but I'm going somewhere. If you let us into the process and look at it, it was not disrespect for that back and forth, that we didn't respond to this. Ms. Smith has a job, Ms. Shawn has a job in her life, Kevin has a job in her life, I have a job in her life. All of us are doing multiple things. And when Adrian and Jody and them contact us, it don't necessarily be just like you all blip, because we have to augment ourselves to then have a come to Jesus with them so that they can turn around and go to Matt. And it's a process. So by saying that y'all extend drafts with us, that's good with Jody. That's good with Adrian. But guess who they represent? They have to now come to us. They cannot arbitrarily decide, this is what I'm going to do. Mr. Brown, can I get the team together? Mr. Brown, this is what we got from Matt. Mr. Brown, this is how they're looking at it. So we have a whole bunch of nuances associated with this process that we didn't wanted to meet with you all a month and a half ago. It was not that we couldn't get together. All Adrian does is say, give me a date. And we augment ourselves to make sure that whatever date you all come up with, we make ourselves accessible. So it's a give and take process, and it's not the badger, it's not to demean, but when you send a draft out, we're not going to respond the next day. We're not going to respond maybe the next week, because Adrian and Jody has to do their work. Then they got the four of us to help them with the process.
I'm
Yeah,
last
and,
minute.
well, I'll just say this, like, I think that, like, here, and like, something we can commit to is that we all agreed, and the Indian River County NAACP work group agrees that that the actual we agree about the spreadsheet and the survey. But then, when we drill down further, I think we just wanted to know more about the survey, and I do not think we will have so much feedback as to the actual survey. We just need a bit more time to, if you could even circulate a blank version of that so we can take a look. And we will commit to not having this oversight, or any oversight like that moving forward. I
just
don't
want
think
this-
we thought it would be this, would take this much time.
Well, and to make the spreadsheet, you got to look at the surveys to make the
Yes.
spreadsheet. So here's the
Yes.
surveys, and here's a copy of the spreadsheets we looked at. How hard is that? And we're 10 feet in the rabbit hole for that.
Well, yeah, because the concern was just making sure that the survey has the information that is needed to say the indicator has been met, basically.
Denise, I know you work at GYAC. Do we need something like a community mentor for our African-American beginning teachers? I mean, they'll have the school, they have the district support, the coaches, but as far as just meeting with people, even at GYAC, anywhere, do we need that for our teachers?
I would say yes, because in Orlando, even for the city, when we get new employees come in, if we let them meet with different community leaders and organizations just to help them better understand the community and how they can effectively do their
Correct.
job. And then they
Right.
get people like point people. So if they're
Yeah.
having certain concerns, there's someone that they can
Get some
call.
retired
I was gonna say
educators, or,
retired
I mean, I know a
educators.
lot,
I think retired
like, maybe I get
educators.
10 people and say they would be our go-to if we needed them for these teachers.
I just got an email 2 nights ago from the Retired Teachers Association, Mr.
I'm part of
Brown.
that.
Nobody. Mr. Brown put us to work.
Which, okay, you don't have to tell me who it was.
They want to be involved because they're paying attention, and they see that the struggle
Oh, I know,
is.
they pay attention.
And I'm just in this moment. I've been doing this since I was 12 years old. I'm getting tired of it. But as Mashawn say, if we don't do this right, we won't get a remake. We'll be gone. The attorneys, well, Joe and Adrian, they don't get paid, but some people get paid. They doing it pro bono, but none of us get paid. We're doing this because we want a better tomorrow for Indian River County. I have lived under this DSEG order. I've seen the damage it has done to my community. I understand the desire to look like and make it feel that everything's good. I had a question a minute ago, and I want to ask the school district. You can't be involved, Eric. If you look at it, the fate of African Americans in Indian River County, inclusive of the school district, and the desegregation order, where would you put it?
What do you mean, where would I put it, buddy? Where?
Would it be a passing grade?
Oh,
Would it
okay.
be I mean, we've seen, Dr. Jones, some of the most atrocious stuff go on in Indian River County. And our people, even though the data might say this and the data might say that, we have a community full of functionally illiterate kids. And that's a reality. not faulting anybody, I'm faulting a system. And we're here to help alter the course of that system, but we must be open and honest to say, that's not good, that's not good. We need to change that and not keep throwing in my face the 2018 plan. Let's say we are here now to move this forward, not the bare bones, or we can meet the standards, or we can meet this, so we can get a get-out-of-jail-free card with the DSEG and say, Judge, it's over, and then 10 years from now, we be back where we were. That is my worst nightmare.
So where would you see for this, what we just talked about, what would we need to do as far as, I mean, the indicator 8 tells the percentage and so forth. Open up the survey, look at community mentors. What else do we need in this first?
Get it surveyed, send it to the spreadsheet survey to our attorneys. They'll do us. We'll do a draft and we'll get it back.
But that's and I think the flip side is there are people that are doing this work. So when you look at mentoring, it is to assess the current practice. And we're defining criteria to evaluate if what's currently being done meet the agreed upon indicators. And you look at the survey and say, our feedback on this specific section is it is or it is not meeting the recommendation. It is not meeting the indicators, and here's our recommendation. That's the point that we're trying to get to, is to conduct the evaluation to provide recommendations. So that's the fruitful conversation that allows us to go back and say, all right, let's look at our practices. That's not this conversation. This conversation is how are we evaluating the opportunity to say, yes, the district does have unitary status in each of these particular situations.
So what measure would you suggest for measuring that the plan and practice is welcoming and providing a supportive professional environment? Like, how do we measure that it's welcoming and providing supportive
So if
environment?
you looked at without even looking at the indicators, it is looking at what is the voice of those individuals who are participating in that particular program, which is their feedback from their particular survey. What are their thoughts on that, the implementation of what's currently being done? And I'm saying if it's to bring them, I don't know, because I know the program intimately, as does Dr. Shafty. I don't know.
So my question then is, how do you get around mentees who are not comfortable with being honest about their experience because they know that this is being tracked, or, this could, if I'm honest about my experience, this could negatively affect me? How do we, because that may not be captured in the survey, how do we ensure?
If you were to ask a person who's receiving the mentoring, that they would say, I have multiple opportunities, whether it's my mentor, whether it's the instructional coach, whether it's a colleague teacher, whether it's my assigned assistant principal, whether it's my principal. This is non-evaluative. This is you're not being evaluated through your mentor.
You want to chime in?
I think just drilling down on what Kevin had said, like, I think that the survey is pretty much almost there, but the indicator talks about an individualized plan. And so just making sure that the survey captures the individualization, that's like the one element we're missing.
But the survey is not anonymous.
And
It's not anonymous, right?
No.
yes,
How would we make it individual if it's anonymous?
Well, this is to measure if it had, so basically, you can send out a survey to your mentors and mentees and asking them, is your, like, how is your pairing with your mentor? Like, Is it support, like, is your mentor supportive? Have you received a personalized mentoring plan? Like, highly unlikely, like, unlikely, likely, or neutral, however. And it could be anonymous, but you get that feedback, right? That's what I was talking about. You're saying you need the feedback in order to personalize the plan. That's what you're saying?
So what they submit in their survey is their individual plan. What is your opportunity for growth? Where do you want to grow? What are you doing well? They're honest. There's someone in here who said, I want to speak to the district. Followed up, yeah, we went right back, they went out, they met with the teacher, she explained what was happening, the mentor was switched out. That's what you will not ever see in this survey, is the responsiveness that this survey is an intake, but there is no way other than speaking or shadowing or spending the day to see this is just the intake, but there's so many other steps that this doesn't show. They are honest. If they're dissatisfied, there's a follow-up, but the follow-up can't be produced in some paper document. I don't know what to provide.
Have you had an issue with your mentor? Yes, no? Did the district respond to your issue with your mentor? Yes, no? You're saying, like, that's the way to document the follow-up or whatever. But I'm just suggesting those questions because it's in the indicator, basically.
Can I make a suggestion? Just doing surveys quite often. Surveys, those surveys that you have, but then also going back to anonymous surveys out of the, they can do the Survey Monkey, and those yes or no questions, it can be assessed by 70% of the mentees disagreed with the way that the mentoring program was done. Do you feel that you should be paired with another mentor, yes or no? Okay, 60% of the mentees did not feel that they gained what they needed from their mentor. Something like that could be assessed. But also with that, have that individualized plan for them, because yes, they would need something like that, but in order to move forward, to have an understanding, that feedback is very important. And going back to what Dr. Jones asked earlier about having mentors from the community, that would be great. The retired educators, you could have the Divine Nine, you could have people from the church to express to the new teachers, hey, this is the culture, to get them to understand what it's all about and not to be afraid of repercussions because I did address or I feel that I'm outspoken, will I get terminated? But so that they can, going back to what Mashawn said earlier, I noticed that she's saying that a lot about feeling welcome. And that happens, it's hard to explain if you're not an African-American person. When you're in an area and you know that the microscope is on, that's just what you feel. Even if you feel welcome, you still feel like everyone's looking at me. So with that, how can you change that perception? So that's
inclusion,
yeah. Yeah, that's inclusivity. So it's just, you just have to keep working at it. And going back to the surveys, that's going to help assess, is the mentor program really working? Is it not working? What can we do better? How can we improve upon this? And I think that's where we're all trying to get. I think we're all here on the same page. We're kind of beating a dead horse to death, but I think we're all here on the same team. And it's going back to what Dr. Moore did say earlier. I don't really know about what happened with 2018, but I do know I have a lot of experience with the mentoring and mentees. But it's a work in progress, a continuous work in progress. So even though we have here, this is what we want, 6 months from now, it could change because this didn't necessarily work. So, but we have to start somewhere.
So would it be best if we just send the survey in writing to Adrian, you look at it, and then have some suggestions for us? I mean, is that what?
I think that's, from the system, that's when you evaluate, that's when the feedback comes. This is not a conversation to shift or modify practice. This is the opportunity to evaluate what information that is being provided. Then when we get there, that's that conversation. So, and I continue to say, that's the conversation that we eagerly want to have. And if we are in the midst of it, even with these indicators and, gosh, dog it, measures, it becomes more fruitful because you can say, these are our recommendations based on your current practice. We're only trying to evaluate what information is available for you to conduct a thorough evaluation to make recommendations. And the recommendations will be for the system to consider. Or, yeah, this information provided does in fact meet those things. So part of the frustration is let's just evaluate the work. Let's get into it.
But if you don't agree on measures, then the evaluation is going to be different.
Then you say no. We don't agree, and here's our recommendation. We don't agree.
We've done that before.
So did you, I don't know how you answered the question, so did you agree, Dr. Moore, that they take a look at the survey, see what else could be added to it to help with the African-American new teachers, or what did you say? I'm sorry.
I think that is evaluating or shifting the way of work. I think, give us feedback on what the survey would be a recommendation. I think right now, we'll provide the survey, and these are the questions that we're asking, which creates the documentation for the individualized plan. And those questions that Dr. Shafty read articulate the individualized plan. The offer to say, pick, 25 out of the hat, and we'll bring them in, and what questions do you want me to ask them to, hear it from the horse's mouth? I mean, that's the best way to get the information. Let me ask questions to the person who's actually does nothing other than provide this mentorship. Those are the above and beyond information that we could provide to address the additional questions that you may have to make your recommendations.
But it doesn't though, because if the survey does not ask the actual mentee if they have an individualized plan, just because you're asking questions about their specialization doesn't mean a plan is created from that. So that's where it's missing. We see the questions that you ask that may be used for a plan, but we don't see a plan. Now, if we see a plan in the survey, then we can say, okay, we see the specialized plan because we've seen the plan and we also see the survey, but otherwise.
Right, when you're looking at that data, then you would make the determination, yeah, this is an individualized plan, or it is.
Right.
You don't have those responses.
So can we see so I guess then the question, just,
Then you would have
jump
the plan
in,
on.
just that we would, in these measures, because we're being provided with the underlying source data, will we be able to see the individualized plans?
I think the survey is the individualized plans.
That's where I was
Okay.
going.
No.
If you,
For helping
going
me.
with what Dr. Moore said, based on what you said and read as the survey, the question was asked, the only answer we could say is, according to the joint plan, they have a mentoring program. That's all I could answer with that. Yes, they have one. Can't say it's effective, can't say it meets the criteria, can't say it enhances the person's employment status, can't say that it adheres to any change in the social concept of racial equality or anything within the district. I can truthfully sit and say, the Indian River County School District has a mentoring program.
Yeah, but that's your historical opinion. What we're doing now is, this is the indicators that says not only do they have one, we've agreed upon this is what ideally the ideal program should look like. And when you look at the responses to those questions, you may say, we don't feel this is a sufficient individualized plan.
Yeah, but.
Our recommendation is to have them create a individualized plan.
Okay.
That would be the recommendation. But the information isn't in front of you. But we are saying that's how we help them create an individualized plan. In the response, this is what Dr. Shafty was saying, you don't see our response to support or help them implement that plan.
So, just to be clear, the mentee fills out the survey, and their responses are what is considered the individualized plan.
It's the baseline for the plan.
But then there is a plan, or no?
I think you guys are saying there's a tangible plan. The
Yeah.
plan is to review it, assess the pairing with the mentor, have a conversation with the team. There's an administrator on every campus who oversees just the new teacher.
Mm-hmm.
So there are layers to the system of support that couldn't be produced in a paper. I don't know what we would produce for, short of, I noticed somebody put that they wanted to speak with district staff, texted the district staff. Yep, that week I was on the campus, I went to the classroom, we had a conversation, a change was made. I don't know what we would provide to show the responsiveness to this baseline assessment. So you want a 112 paper plan?
No,
I think that's what we thought was happening.
right, we thought that you get the feedback, and so you know that this person struggles with English, and so their mentor is then, there's a plan with the mentor that says, okay, this person struggles with English, you also have the English instructional coach, and there's a plan to support this person. Because if there's not a plan, then how are you even knowing what each individual person wants? Are you going back to the survey and saying, okay, how did they respond? Like, how does that work?
Because the questions are linked to the walkthrough tool and how frequently the school-based staff, the admin, and the district staff are in classrooms, we have the ability to know this is what they think is an opportunity for growth, confirmed, audited, truly an opportunity for growth. Mentor, how is it going with that? Those conversations are the plan. The system has to work where we only have 2 people at the district level for 112 teachers. That cannot be the direct line of communication. The system has to be, the new teacher has a mentor. We rely on our admin to make a pairing as they're interviewing. This person would be great for content. Understand there are going to be exceptions to the rule, but the system, we have to allow the pieces of the system to interact until we know there's a problem. And when we know there's a problem or someone's dissatisfied, there's a response to it.
Because you tell us that we have to hear these conversations that they had with admin, with district, with this one, in order to prove that there is a plan that identifies the obstacles, concerns, and adverse conditions that they experience. So if the new person who was not teacher trained, you have trained them in classroom management and lesson plans and IEPs. That's not written down somewhere.
On the school-based professional learning plan, but that's when they say, is there any additional information, what do you need to be successful? That text box is telling, depending on the personal assessment of that person. I feel very supported by my mentor and team, which makes my second year of teaching more manageable. There are some that are positive. There are some that I'm in a phase of slight overwhelm at the present moment. There are real responses that are received in these surveys that are reviewed on a daily basis, whether it's at the school level, whether it's by the mentor, whether it's by the AP, whether it's by the district staff. District staff is in classrooms every day.
It would be hard for me to grasp and to agree with everyone else that this mentoring plan works just by what's in place right there.
Wouldn't
I mean,
the-
if you had, here's the person's plan. Here's page 1 of the plan. Here's what they did in the first 6 months. Here's in the second 6 months. Or here's first year, second year, and here's what they were taught. Here's what this, here's what. If you had to write somebody up and you gave them a PIP, you would have that. You'd have, I want you to go to this kind of training, that kind of training.
Yeah, but then those are all recommendations, and you don't have the communications, the emails, the volume of support that is being provided. You don't have the honest opinions of the individuals who are in the program, of the mentors or the mentees. The indicator, which is to create, to document, that it's an individualized plan. That's how we're creating an individualized plan. It is extremely individualized. So that would be the recommendation when we presented the information.
So then
Okay,
what,
so I'm thinking, I'm trying to figure out in other professions. So if I take my Daihatsu to the dealer, and she takes her Toyota Corolla or her Mercedes-Benz to the dealer's plan is we fix everybody's car. So it doesn't say that mine needs an air conditioning unit, it needs a new generator, it needs whatever on it, and hers says something different. It's just everybody has the same thing. Or the doctor, when you go to the doctor, I'm having coronary, whatever, she's having diabetes, and he's having, I don't know, obesity. Sorry to give you that. So,
Have fun, Kevin.
so the plan is just we make everybody healthy. So there's no difference in anyone unless you go and talk to each of the doctors. Well, they saw the podiatrist, then they saw the urologist, then they saw that, and you have to hear from every doctor. Am I making sense or am I going crazy?
Would you,
I don't know.
on section 2,
You lost me on
I'm
that one.
I'm following it, I'm following it. On section 2 of the mentoring of new teachers and instructional staff, would you say that we are successful if we meet indicator 8? Would you say then that is successful, which is what we have for the renewal rate? Should not be less than 80% of the renewal rate of the white counterpart. Is that what we're saying would be a successful mentoring program? Just ask it,
That's just one of the indicators.
Yeah.
It would be a strong one.
It's a data
but
one.
if-
It's a data one,
But if
yes.
you have,
Yes.
but then if you have the other, some of those who didn't make it, the 20% that didn't make it or whatever, and they never got a mentor, then the mentoring plan didn't work.
But I
See,
think that's
we
where
met
the
80%, but the other
other
20
indicators would show that. We're going to show you every pairing. We're going to show you that every pairing layered on that has a clin ed person. We're going to show you the survey responses from the mentor and the mentee. Like, I think we have to layer, I think we're so focused on this one measure, but the measures should work in a continuum because each
that's why I
piece
thought it was
is
a
important
sequence.
to the system.
well, the thing with the one measure is that it doesn't show the personalized mentoring plan that identifies obstacles, concerns, and adverse conditions they experience with clearly defined steps to address those obstacles, concerns, and adverse conditions. Now, it identifies them because the mentor says it in the survey, but then where's the plan to show that it's identified and addressed? And you're saying, oh, because the district does certain things. Okay, so is the district then?
So we could give you their calendars to show where they're going places. There are pieces, but I think there's not a full understanding of the process from start to finish.
So what do you define a plan as? Maybe that's it. Maybe our minds, a plan is
We expect to
something
see
that is
something.
written, right, and outlined. What do you define a plan as?
A plan is a response to solve a problem or enhance what is working or what is not working. To me, I don't always equate that to be a paper, step 1, step 2, steps 3, step 4, because their job is to be in schools. So we have a mechanism in place to survey the needs of the teacher. Then when they're in school, they're walking classrooms, they're walking by themselves, they're walking with the admin, they're auditing, did what the teachers say, is it actually correct? Some teachers think they are stellar, and then you walk the classroom, and that's not what you see. There are processes in place where this is the teacher's self-assessment, and if that's correct, it's confirmed because someone's pushing into that classroom. Someone's having a conversation. And when it's unsuccessful, there's a response, which you won't see in this survey because this survey is purely the mentee that says, the calendar for the follow-up conversation, when can I meet with you, the cell phone call, the text, can you help me with test prep? I don't know how we quantify the pieces that this survey, the reality that is not captured in this survey.
So Oxford Dictionary says a plan is a detailed proposal for doing or achieving something.
Kind of like a strategic plan.
Right.
I think then we're on the same page here. You're basically saying, like, we're doing all of this work. How can we show that to you? And we're saying, right, you're doing all of this work. How can we see that? And so I think,
Yes.
Let us present all of the indicators so you can have a
Okay.
comprehensive look at the information that is provided.
okay,
And once again, there's access to the mentor, the mentees, the two individuals who do this work. When you talk about a plan, a bad plan is step 1, step 2, steps 3, step 4, because that's not how you provide support to a person. You're talking about a confidential relationship that is very fluid, and we want to protect that. So you're gonna do, it's not gonna be step 1 and then an immediate step 2. It could be step 2, it could be a very numerous things that could take place, and the level of who's providing that mentorship is twofold. It's gonna be the people who have 60 themselves, and just in seeing and knowing the volume of emails and support that goes through, it's going to be extremely clear when we present this information of saying, okay, it's very clear the role that the district individual plays in overseeing the mentor program, and it is extremely clear the role the school site administrator plays. It is very clear the role that the assistant principal plays or the principal, depending on how they do it at their specific school, in the management and implementation of that specific thing. It is very clear the reaction the district takes in response to the feedback from the survey, because it's so vivid in the information provided.
and so will all of that be on the spreadsheet?
No, I would imagine it's going to be a slew of printed emails.
Okay.
It's going to be,
Okay.
yes, a spreadsheet, and here's the actual feedback surveys, and here's the statements provided.
Okay.
It is this big old binder
Okay.
that says, okay, now I have a better picture of the plan, because the plan comes to life as I read the information provided. And that to me, and that's kind of where I'm stuck, it's a better conversation when the information has been digested to give recommendations versus saying, it says plan, it's a very specific plan. We don't have a very specific plan. That's just one more thing to ask underpaid, overworked people to do.
So are you just looking for the African-American teachers on this survey, or you want to look at all of them?
African-American
African-American,
African-American
okay.
teachers.
And
I
two
think,
words was used that takes me right back to where we started, which is no, I'm saying in the thought is confidential and fluid.
Everything's fluid. You better keep going, or
My
dad used to say it's a good day when you can get up.
But I'm just saying,
Oh, that's the
in
first
the
thing
process
Tony said to me
of this mentoring, in the process of this survey, it's because, as we said, culturally competent, or looking at me, my journey, what I've experienced, what I've seen, what I see. When it's confidential, it's in the closet, per se. When it's fluid, it means it's ambiguous, that it can change and move around to whose benefit? Is it the mentee's benefit or the mentor's benefit? And you said it earlier, if you're not, how the Bible put it, evenly yoked, then we got a problem. And that's the thing that I think we're seeing, because we can't definitively say other than you have a plan. It may be the best plan since cotton candy.
We can't say they have a plan. We can say that they ask questions that they say they use for a
Yeah,
plan.
okay.
I think that this is helpful.
Just say that.
I think this is helpful in that, like, it's really the information deficit, because I think that we looked at two things and came from it from different perspectives. So when we looked at indicator 4, saying that the staff member has a personalized mentoring plan, we made some assumptions on that. We assumed that it was that they got a plan, like a written, like an action plan, or, if you're on a performance evaluation plan. And so we kind of looked at the measures vis-a-vis that assumption. And so this conversation is helpful to understand all of the, like you said, it's a confidential relationship, and how it actually works. We were basically operating in a different universe of how we measure this.
I respect
Yes.
that, but I still say, let's dig into it so
Okay.
it becomes more meaningful, because, and
I
get it, because I could go back and watch this and saying, they don't have a very specific plan, that's absurd. But when you start to talk about a plan with a teacher who's new, that's not good.
Okay.
That is a breakdown of, what do you mean I have to have a plan?
Yeah.
Because they're going to immediately associate that with
More work.
something negative. But the plan is the roles and responsibilities multiple people in the organization play, in which we can very clearly articulate. Now, could we say this is the roles and responsibilities to give you a better sense, and we probably would do that as we presented the information. This person does this, and this, and that gives a reader a better response. Okay, there's a pretty descriptive, comprehensive plan, but I would be hard-pressed to say, let me sit and write a prescriptive plan of support, because that's going to be something the system could use against somebody, which I'm adamantly against. I'm going to protect that confidential relationship.
And I think part of the plan is, maybe plan sounds like a bad word, that making sure that the teachers have the necessary building blocks, just those basics to get started in the classroom, like we did Harry Wong back in the day.
You all can have them, and we'll all, you can ask them whatever you, I mean, that's
That's
the
right.
easy, I mean,
So I have a question. In the first 3 years, a teacher can be non-renewed.
teacher could be non-renewed in
Oh, okay,
year
so they're all
25.
out. Okay, so
Well,
what-
unless
what-
they're
what
professional
reason?
contract.
Okay, I'm thinking way back then. So what reason do you give when you're non-renewed?
Well, I-
There's no-
you
know
know
that.
the
There-
answer to
there is-
that,
there is
Mr.
no-
Browning.
Okay, so there's no
It's a
reason.
right to work state.
Okay, so now, and it's the same thing with, I believe, with a probationary person. Oh, well, we just non-renewed, but they said, well, they didn't
90
give me,
days.
they didn't give me any training. Lesson plan, this one, and here's the evaluation, they never made it, but that's just some of whatever happened. You understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah,
And
because
that's-
nobody, you could, it's easy to say, we non-renewed you because, or they just didn't fit a lot of a bad fit for this or that or the other. But if we have the plan that would show that, or the building blocks, we
But
trained
what
them in this, we
you-
trained them in that, we trained them
Good
in that. they
point.
had
What
the
you would
PA.
have in that situation, if it ever came to that, and let's be honest, we have those conversations, not here, but we have them every year, pretty much.
Sure.
And there'll be times where we can go back and say, is that your job? That's what you do. That's part of your advocacy. Here's the layers and levels of support that were provided, which would be the plan, which would be the emails, which would be the communications. So in terms of the role that you could play, you could say, oh, okay, we're cool.
Yeah,
And you all have said that. And there've been, or the adverse is like, well, where's all the stuff? That would be, that's the information that we would say, and it is a check and balance, which is not necessarily part of this conversation, but we have those conversations, and it wouldn't be the plan, it would be me going through and saying, which we do, when it comes to that, and when a teacher is non-renewed, they're non-renewed for no reason, and non-renewals are based on the enrollment in the school system, the number of language arts teachers that we need at a particular school versus not. It's more fluid than it's ever been, and I have said from the very, very beginning, and pick a principle, if they're gonna non-renew for a reason, I need to know that every layer of support, so that has been provided, and you're just not saying, I'm getting rid of this person, because that's the easy thing. And we've had that conversation. I don't allow that, because at the end of the day, we need teachers.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, I think because we set this for 5 to 7,
That's okay.
my car is going to maybe
Is he
abandon me.
charging you?
No, it's
My
okay.
daughter is in the air, too, and my
Okay.
wife's like, you're going to go by yourself if you don't come get me.
But I mean, I think that there was, that we on our side understand this a bit more and kind of, I think we're on a clearer page with understanding of, and take your points, Dr. Moore, are well taken, especially because of, your control of the information. So I think moving forward, the best thing that we can do to make sure that we are well prepared for our April meeting is that we will look at your we will, provide, again, feedback to Section 2, but I think now we're more closely aligned on the measures for Section 2 with this understanding. We'll provide the feedback for extracurriculars within
That would be good.
within 2 weeks of the April deadline, and if you all give us the measures for the other sections by March 20th, we can get you that feedback within a week, and we will, to the extent we need to see anything from the district, we will ask for that in advance.
Just my own reflection, and we'll debrief. And I'm absolutely, the exchange of information is something that I appreciate, but we won't assume that when we're coming in, we're only going to talk about the specific feedback.
Yeah.
I am, here's 3 people away from me, considering when we provide the measures, we're providing what we think is the information in which we would provide, which is almost like a pre-evaluation of the work, and it makes it, it may be, the collection of information may be a little bit more, but at the end of the day, it gives us better conversation. You're not evaluating the work, you're not providing any recommendations, you're just saying, oh, this is what they mean, and your feedback could be a little bit more specific. Well, what about, do you have something this, or this doesn't necessarily say it? So Because at the end of the day, we're still talking about and putting ourselves in a situation, we're going to provide information on a sentence. We're not specifically saying, when I say a chart, or I say a contract, it's loud. Tony, you know, you call my wife and ask for permission. This is the
Adrian
contract.
both
This
better
is,
get out of here.
this is what it is. So some of it is, and the reality is, not all of you are educators in this work. So seeing it and grasping it in your hands accelerates your understanding of what we're trying to present.
Yes.
And it gives us, you know, because I think we'll step back and say, okay, we agreed to providing a plan. We don't necessarily have a plan, the specific outcome. Maybe the easier way to do is say, this is the structure of who does what, which validates there is a very clearly defined roles and responsibilities that articulates the plan of action, which we could provide. I think that might accelerate this, because at the end of the day, as Matt said, I want to get to the conversations around progress, unitary status, and recommendations. All right, thank you very much.
7:17, we're adjourned.